I've never participated in any kind of readathon ever, but on the 13th of March, I thought it would be a great idea to start my own little marathon of the Grisha Trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. Being a massive fan of the Six of Crows duology, I thought I'd go on back and read the series that began the Grishaverse before I read King of Scars. I did not know it would be this hard. Well, the reading part wasn't all that hard. I personally have never read a series back-to-back in such a short time, measuring one book per day, but I found that I actually enjoyed reading them. The hard part is probably trying to be honest about my thoughts about these books. I watched a video a long time ago by Jesse the Reader where they had mentioned that Leigh Bardugo's writing in Six of Crows had improved from the Grisha Trilogy, but I had not expected it would be this much. Shadow and Bone is the first book of the Grisha Trilogy and the book that introduces us to the Grishaverse. My first impression was, I could not believe that it was the same author for the Six of Crows duology, and I was impressed by how much Leigh Bardugo had developed. And then we were introduced to Alina and Mal's dynamic, and I think I sprained and may have even torn a few eye muscles at the amount of eye rolling I was doing. Discovering more of the world I already loved from Six of Crows. The concept of the fold, I absolutely adored that. The scene leading up to and right after Mal and Alina find the blank. And finally, the mixed feelings the Darkling's character gave me, very strong mixed emotions. Though I doubted him from the very beginning, I loved how into this book I was, though that was definitely not because of the writing, but more of the fact that I wanted to be into it. The love triangle, Mal and Alina's dynamic, Mal, Alina, the Darkling, and all the characters, maybe not David, until he did that thing. I also liked Genya, but I felt like I was making myself like her more than I actually did. Easy to read, but also terrible. I was grimacing and rolling my eyes throughout most of it, but I do admit that the closer to the end, the better. The writing and the plot development. Maybe that was just because I wanted it to end. First of all, appropriate title. Second of all, the writing had gotten leagues better than in Shadow and Bone. I would say the pacing of the story got better, but Mal and Alina made me yell into the abyss so many times with their whining. I honestly sped over most of their thoughts. I was incredibly excited by the new characters. I thought they were great, and I was definitely more excited by the plot now. But whatever great or cool thing that was happening was overshadowed by the terrible love square and pining by the characters. Though because I already knew a few things about Nikolai because of Six of Crows, I hadn't really been too bothered about Alina and him. His entire arc, if that's the appropriate term, was interesting enough, and though I did find him annoying and sort of creepy at times, I was excited by the character development I knew he would go through. But overall, he was a fun character that shed a whole lot of light over Alina and Mal's dreary romance and the Darkling's absence. I have to highlight that I probably enjoyed Leigh Bardugo's writing development more than the books themselves. The rise of the quality of writing, the actual events that happened, and the doubled size of the world that the characters live in. The pacing, the whining, the pining, and basically everything about almost all of the characters. And finally, Ruin and Rising. While Siege and Storm felt like it was leagues better than Shadow and Bone, Ruin and Rising felt like it was at the point in their writing journey that Leigh Bardugo was getting close into peaking Six of Crows quality, but mostly only during the parts where the characters bonded with each other as they were trying to escape, I suppose. I did like one character a whole lot, Harshaw. And you can guess what I felt after what happened to him. Back to the actual story, I was glad that things were coming to a close, and I honestly liked Ruin and Rising, though it's definitely not anywhere near Six of Crows. I disliked the Pining Festival, just like always, and I was disappointed at the character development the main characters went through, or more like, the development they didn't go through. I feel like they pined too much to actually grow as characters, and the ending was them catching up to all the developing they didn't do. Speaking of the ending, I loved it. Leigh Bardugo had done the amount of suffering I went through with Mal and Alina's pining justice. All in all, I enjoyed the journey, though not so much with the story. I rate Shadow and Bone with 2 out of 5 stars, Siege and Storm with 3 out of 5 stars, and Ruin and Rising with 4 out of 5 stars. Before I go and read King of Scars, which I am pumped for, I've decided to once and for all tackle Red Rising by Pierce Brown, a book that has been on my TBR list for almost 2.5 years, or a century. Honestly, I can't tell. Thank you for coming along on my journey, and see you on Mars! By the way, my name's Nick. I forgot to introduce myself. Oh my goodness. Page 170. He looked genuinely baffled. Sorry, why would you care what I think? Alina says. He looked genuinely baffled. I don't know, he said, but I do. And then he kissed me. Excuse me? 911? What? If the Darkling came to my room tonight, what would it mean? The idea of being his sent a little jolt through me. I didn't think he was in love with me, and I had no idea what I felt for him, but he wanted me, and maybe that was enough. Girl, no! I am scared. 196. Okay, so the Darkling's men had found the stag. I should be thinking about that, about my destiny, about the fact that I would have to kill an ancient creature, about the power it would give me and the responsibility of that. But all I could think about was his hands on my hips, his lips on my neck, the lean, hard feel of him in the dark. 911!